Welcome to The Backstory. I'm Robert. Today I am joined by Lezon. I am so excited to have you here. You've got a new book, Your Mess Matters, which I actually really want to read, mainly because I saw the cover of it and I was hooked immediately. And then hearing you talk with Bobby this morning made me want to read it even more.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was the inspiration for this book?
It's kind of twofold.
Okay.
So a lot of the inspiration came from talking to people that I was pastoring when we had planted a church, and then just from speaking all over the country. I had heard from so many people, Christians, that they felt like the messiness of their life, and maybe not overall, but a particular thing.
Sure.
Things they don't like about themselves, things that happened to them, things they did. They felt like their life was such a mess that it was keeping them from God. And I was like, I don't, what gospel are you reading? Because I'm hearing that God meets you in your mess, right? And it's so cliche. But I was like, I wanna go deeper than that. What does that actually mean? God meets you in your mess. And so I made the subtitle "Creates from the Dust and Redeems by the Blood." Because I was like, God literally has always been working in messes, not around them. And so that's kind of the inspiration. And then in my own life, I went through a messy situation where my wife and I, our first year of marriage, we planted a church, got married, which that alone, somebody should have talked to me about that.
There's a little bit of transition thing going on there.
Yeah. And then I ended up getting sick. And we couldn't figure out what was wrong with me for 6 months. It ended up being multiple infections in my body that God, through doctors and just his hand over my life, he healed me, thank God. And but man, for 6 months that was the back half of our 6 months of marriage. So
wow.
It was crazy.
So let's go back a little bit before that. How and when did you become a pastor? Like, when was that moment where you felt called?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I went to Texas A&M. I was under Ben Stewart at Breakaway, and just God just really got a hold of my heart then. And I never wanted to be in ministry still, though. I just loved the Word of God, loved the local church. I was actually going to school to be a nurse anesthetist, so I'd gotten through all my anatomies, applying to nursing school, and I felt like God just... One day, I have family and people there that can attest this, I just started weeping in the middle of a football game because I knew I was called to ministry, and I knew it was going to change my goals, everything that I had kind of seen for the future of my life. And in that moment, I knew God called me. My wife and I, we were doing marriage counseling with
so it all happened at the same time.
Yeah, it all. So shortly after that, we start doing marriage counseling, and the guy, Matt Slaughter, he says to me, have you ever felt called to ministry? I was like, yeah, I feel called to ministry. And he's like, have you ever thought maybe being a pastor? And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, aren't we supposed to be doing marriage counseling? What's going on? And he told us about his dream to plant a church. And marriage counseling quickly turned into a church planting conversation.
Wow.
And he hired me. My first job out of college, he hired me to help plant this church at the, very wise age of 23. And so that was quite the ride.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love how that's all connected as well. So what are some of the things that you guys enjoy doing together?
A lot. We're kind of like homebodies. We travel all the time, so when we are home, we
you can just
love it. A movie. We're really old timers too. We listen to music that it makes me get along with the older generations too, because we are Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Rat Pack people.
You would have liked my kitchen last night.
Yeah,
I was listening to that all night while cooking. It was great.
It's Louis Armstrong, the whole. We are so into it. So just a night in, doing that, and we also we love traveling together. We travel quite a bit together. Thank God she's here with me today. Love her, my beautiful bride. And we've been to Israel. We've been everywhere together. So it's awesome.
So you guys like to stay home. Do you like the classic movies as well, or is it more about the music?
It's more the music.
Okay.
There are classic movies that we will dabble in, but not a ton. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you today. So we love the classic music so much. And gosh, we're just. Yeah, it's so weird. I had a friend come over the other day, and he's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what is this?"
Tragedy.
I feel like my father or my grandfather. I'm like, I don't know what's happened to music these days. I'm the worst millennial ever. So But I do
Nothing
enjoy a
wrong with that.
participation trophy every now and then.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah,
great.
so
That's great.
yeah, it's awesome.
So what are you excited about moving forward?
I'm really excited to see what God does through the book legitimately. I'm terrified at the same time. It's kind of scary to put stuff out there in any way, shape, or form, whether it's a book, just online, whatever, just to share your story. So that I'm excited about and terrified, and I feel like that's how I know God's in it. We're excited, my wife and I, to see what God does in 2020. There's just something about a new decade that kind of feels like a fresh start in some ways, even though it's like not,
Yeah.
So we're ready to bring in the roaring 20s again at a different age. So we're excited to see what does the next few years hold for us, as we're not technically pastoring a church right now.
Okay.
We're very involved at our local church, and I'm on the teaching team there. And
Cool.
So we're just like, God, we're open-handed.
So I see a lot of faith in your story. So if we were to go lessons according to Luke, I'm making up this segment. What would you say?
I don't know if that'd be good or bad.
I don't know. We'll see. What would you say a life lesson that you could pass on to people that maybe are feeling that excited and terrified feeling as well?
I'd say that's a good thing. If you're not terrified, you're not doing anything that's probably going to be insanely impactful for the glory of God, for the kingdom. But so at the same time, like embrace that fear. I mean, that's something that we, it's really easy to say. But if you could see us in our living room some days, it's just total like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And we talk all the time. It's like we need to hit our knees here. I mean, we got to really marinate even the things we're not sure of in prayer. And so embrace that feeling of fear, because that's how you know God's in it, but also confidence. There's confidence in knowing that this isn't in my control or my power. It's all through God's power, and He's in control, and I submit to that and trust that.
That's awesome. So you said hitting the knees.
Yeah.
You do this at the beginning of every sermon, is that correct?
I do it at the beginning of every sermon.
Talk about where that came from.
It actually it came from Ben Stewart. I'm a big believer you can learn through mentors or mistakes.
Absolutely.
And Ben, just watching him do it, there's something powerful about watching the person that you're all about to learn from see what he probably does privately, do it publicly, because there is a humility in it. It's weird to get on your knees in front of people and pray that way. But I just felt like this is a good reminder for me and for other people. Anything I say is not going to be worth a whole lot unless I'm going to Him for what we're about to hear. And I'm a firm believer in that, and so I do it every sermon.
That is really cool. So my last question on the backstory is always the hardest one.
Okay.
You are a coffee connoisseur.
Yeah.
You've had cups of coffee, I'm guessing, from around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
What was the best cup of coffee you've ever drank?
Oh my gosh.
Don't ask a question unless I can answer it too, but I'll tell you after.
Well, it's weird because it was imported, but the best cup of coffee I had was in the market in Israel. There's I forget the name of the place. I'm going to have to get back to you on the name of the place. But you go through the market and there's like this very quaint, cool little coffee shop, and they had imported a Guatemalan coffee, and I was floored. I mean, we bought like 3 bags. I was like, we bought all the bags. It was one of those like Ron Swanson moments for you Parks and Rec people where they were like, yeah, you can have a few bags. I was like, no, you misheard me. We need all the bags. So it was unbelievable.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on The Backstory. Make sure to check out Luke's interview with Bobby on Hour of Power, and also check out his books everywhere they're sold. Thank you again for being on.
Thank you for having me.